compliant, over, non-compliant. I went over on my macros. Man, is this a situation that you've been through? Probably, if you track macros. Happens to everybody. But before we beat ourselves up too bad about what happened, let's look at the situation a little bit. It was 4th of July weekend, had some family coming to town. There were multiple cookouts and multiple days going over. So all the strategies in the world, like trying to use intermittent fasting and moving targets and adjustments to bring the targets down the remaining days before that check-in, just couldn't quite get it back in range like it was supposed to. And sure enough, the weight went up on the scale, as is kind of predictable. So we're going to be talking about 2 different types of things today. What to expect will happen when you go over on your macros. And the other one is what to do about it. And each one of those things that you can expect. So yeah, going over your normal part of the process, fat loss diet. So let's go ahead and start talking about the things that will help you out. So the first thing to expect when you go over on your macros, it's kind of obvious. That is weight gain. So kind of makes sense here. Let's talk a little bit about why you could expect to see weight gain when you're going over. One of the first and most obvious things is glycogen replenishment. So glycogen is your body's way of carbohydrate energy. And for every gram of glycogen in your body, there's 3 grams of water bound to it. So as you start to replenish your glycogen stores in your muscles and in your liver, more water is going to come in and you're going to see an immediate jump in weight. So that's why when people are cutting carbs out of their diet, they see that fast drop in weight because you're burning through your body's stored glycogen and you usually pee out that water and you'll see fast drops. But just like when you're coming out of a deficit, or just like when you go into a deficit and see the drop, when you come out of a deficit, you'll see that weight come back on. So don't freak out too much. You know, if you saw yourself go up 3 or 4 pounds from going over on your macros, odds are it's just water weight and there's no need to really worry about it. So that's something you can expect. But what do you do about it? Well, this one is pretty simple. You keep tracking. So it's very tempting to feel like you screwed up. It's just another one of those diets that you failed, and it's time to go back to your old life of making excuses and feeling bad all the time. No, please don't do that. So you keep tracking, because if you keep tracking, you're going to be able to kind of get back on the wagon that you just fell off of and start to see the results come back, because as you're tracking over time, you're going to recreate that deficit. That same water weight's going to come back off, and you're going to continue seeing progress with your fat loss. What's another thing you can expect after going over on your macros on the fat loss diet? That is pretty simple, but it is a loss of motivation, which only makes sense because you've been working really hard. You've been putting in all these different strategies like intermittent fasting. You're checking in, you're tracking your macros, and you've been seeing results. But then once the scale kind of starts to go the wrong way, you're like, oh man, I got to stay in this fat loss phase even longer because my weight went in the wrong direction. Maybe I should just give up. Maybe I should just go back to doing what I always do, say screw it and throw in the towel and hit up the closest Wendy's or Golden Corral or, I don't know, Taco Bell? Nah, do better than that. Sorry, Taco Bell. But anyway, yeah, it's very easy to just totally lose motivation when you see your weight go the wrong direction, you screw it up, and you just kind of think that that's going to be a pattern that continues happening into the future. Doesn't necessarily have to be the case. So what can you do when you're losing your motivation, and how do you fix that? Well, let's see what happens next week. So you're going to combine these 2 things here, keep tracking, and go into next week. You want to use that momentum that you've built up and the habit that you've built up of tracking to just keep things going. For the purposes of this example, we had 4th of July weekend, multiple cookouts, and just went way over too much during the week. I don't think there's any, let's see, what's the weekend of the 4th, 11th of July celebrations that we do. So you're probably going to be all right. Usually holidays are spread out. So just keep tracking, go into the next week, and see what happens. So what's the third thing that you can expect? The third thing that you can expect is about 2 weeks. It's going to be about a 2-week fix. So that first week, where you continue tracking into the next week, you're probably going to see that glycogen that you replenished come back off. And then that second week is when you'll really start to see significant amounts of fat loss again. So you kind of have to stay in it about 14 days or 2 weeks to really undo the damage that you did with that 1 week. But the fact of the matter is, people are not fruit flies and we have a long lifespan. So you have plenty of time to fix these problems. So with a 2-week fix, there's another thing that you might want to do here. And this is a potential reassess. This is why it's important to reassess. You might find yourself in a situation where the reason why you went over on your macros wasn't necessarily related to a holiday, a birthday, or some kind of extraneous event. It might just be because your macros are really low and you're having a super hard time sticking to them. So if 2 weeks of trying to go resulted in 2 more weeks of going over on your macros, it's time to reassess your goal. Like, you're probably done with fat loss and we want to consider moving into a reverse diet. So we got videos about when it's time to consider doing a reverse diet that you might want to watch if you think that situation might apply to you. So you're going to want to reassess your situation and also think about other things that you have coming up. Now, I'm not going to lie, it's going to be a tricky upcoming weigh-in for me because immediately after 4th of July weekend, my birthday is coming right up. And one of my great friends from college is getting married on the 13th. So coming off of 4th of July weekend and barbecues is birthday and wedding time. So this is going to get tricky. But I will be using intermittent fasting like a maniac to try to really keep everything in check because so close to the finish line when it comes to fat loss. I just want to get it over with and be able to enjoy Torchy's tacos instead of Torchy's taco. I hope you guys find this information helpful. And if you're enjoying the content, it makes all of us feel very warm and fuzzy here at Avatar if you leave us nice comments, subscribe to the channel, and like the video. I appreciate your time, and we'll update you on the next check-in.